Hello, everyone. So today I want to talk about being uprooted, right? I think this might be a feeling that a lot of people are having in today's world just because of the climate of events that have been happening, and I should say have been happening for quite some time. Even before the pandemic of 2020, I think people have a hard time with continuing on with their path that they created maybe when they were younger, or the path they created when they've got those drive of motivation, right? They've got that energy that says, okay, hey, why have I been feeling this way? um, I'm going to change this. But usually that's a short term factor, right? Like we all go through those times in life where we get passionate about something, whether it's an idea, it's a business idea, or it's a new goal that we're going to set for ourselves, or it's a new education that we're going to go for, or a new study that we're going to go for, or a new job we're going to go for, or just a new day-to-day routine practice that we're going to go for. But the thing that we continually find is we usually are uprooted by the world to distract us from continuing on that plan. So we've got this healthy plan that we've came up with, or this healthy idea that we've came up with, and whatever drives us to get to that healthy plan, whether it's being depressed or being angry or being upset or feeling not fulfilled, or just destined for something new. We've got these great ideas that usually gives us that energy to create a forward thinking mindset, but then we always fall off of that plan, and that plan becomes diminished. We either stop it in a day, or we stop it, let's say even after we finish the thought. Sometimes I've had that before where it's like, you're like, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to start right away. But then what happens? We get a phone call that distracts us. We go on social media, which is probably one of the hardest things that distract us from what we need to be doing compared to what we should be doing. And what I mean by we need to be doing is what we need to be doing for ourselves. We need to understand that for you to live a healthy life, you have to reinvest back into yourself. And I feel like in today's time, we're so busy giving everyone else things. We're so busy giving the world things. We're so busy giving our job things. We're so busy giving our kids things, our husband, our spouse, our wife, whatever it might be. We're constantly giving, but we're not giving back to us. And I think that's an important thing. In today's topic, I'm going to kind of talk about uprooting. And there was a beautiful message in the Bible that I read. And sorry for not being able to quote it at this point in time. I'm sure as I do videos, as I continue to read, it'll come back up, as I do believe it is in the New Testament. But there was a beautiful passage. Once again, it was a story that was told by the Bible. And the key thing about the Bible is many times it represents stories of past people. And uniquely enough, a lot of those stories address even the same problems that we have today. One of the greatest things that I always tell people is we're the same population, we just have different tools that enable us to do what we've done thousands of years ago at a much quicker rate. And for some things, that's great. If we think about car automation and being able to get from point A to point B, that's fantastic. Our tools have improved. But in other things that can enable us to actually lose ground on some areas that as humans we've made up great amounts of ground through our history. And some of those things can just be having tools that equip you to um, lose sight of what our true passions are in life, what our true destiny is in life, what our true desires are in life, and sometimes just what the truth is of ourselves. And so that's something to be very cautious of. But this story in the Bible, it talks about planting your seeds. And God goes to tell the story through a disciple, and basically talks about how you can plant your seeds, but depending on where you plant your seeds will depend on the yield that comes out of that. And I thought that was really important. And these three seeds are planted in three different areas. One seed is a seed that God says is to be planted in good soil. And this is the seed area, that the soil that I should say, not the seed area, but the soil that God wants us to. And that soil is enriched with nutrients. It's been rototilled, it's been maintenance, it's been manicured, it's been given time to develop over time. And so the thing about the soil is the soil is got some of the richest soil that is seen. But to get that richness of soil, you had to put time into it, right? You had to till the soil, which means you had to turn up the soil. You had to get oxygen into the ground. You had to get that nitrogen released. And you had to also clear a path, right? Because for soil to be good soil, and for it to be able to plant something, whoever has gardened in their life in the past, you can't have objects that are getting in the way of that, or that would construe your plant from being able to grow. So for an example, if you've got only 3 inches of soil, but your plant needs 6 inches, it's not going to work, because typically what's going to happen is your plant's going to fall over because it never had deep enough roots. So you've got to, the first part of this soil, this first path here is you need to invest in your foundation, and that foundation being your soil. So when you think about planting seeds, you've got option one, which is planting seeds in a soil that is beautifully enriched. You've invested time into it. You have studied how a plant needs to grow. You have studied what makes soil the best enabler for a plant to grow. You've invested your time into manicuring this soil for this future plant. And so that time is dedicated there. So that's your option one, is you find a place that you can plant your seed in good soil that is not going to be disturbed, soil that has been maintenanced for the best growth opportunity. The second seed is a seed that gets planted in rocky areas, right? So we think about this like, if I was to put this in terms of real life, rocky soil means that it's enough for you to grow something, but can you really get deep roots? And so what this to me kind of is a symbol of life here is, imagine if you were a person that was leaping from job to job to job, right? And you kept leaping from job to job because you're trying to find your passion, which is okay. But if you find yourself leaping from job to job to job, you recognize that, if you do take the time to recognize, why are you jumping job to job to job? Is it because you're trying to get more money? Is it because you're unhappy? But asking yourself that question is, what is calling for me to continue to jump from job to job? Because I keep moving, but the same outcome keeps happening. And so I look at rocky soil as the same way. It's something that you're choosing to plant your seed into, something that is not, you've not invested your time into. You don't fully understand your surroundings. You don't fully understand the expectations of growth. You don't fully understand the work that has to go into getting to that option one group, good soil, right? Like you kind of you're speeding through things, and you're never taking time in life to just slow down and recollect yourself. And so, kind of going over this option two, it's rocky soil. So you haven't done anything to maintenance it. You haven't done anything to prepare it. You haven't done anything to research about how your plant is going to grow, but you've taken this seed and you've basically just planted it here. Going to the third option, I'll give you the outcomes of each at the end. Going to the third option is, rather than rocky soil, you've got soil, but you're planting it in weeds, or you're planting it in thorns. And I think that's the best representation that the Bible gives, is you're planting it in thorns. So what this symbolizes is, although your soil might be good, it's not the greatest, but it's good enough to grow. Your seed will grow, but you'll find out later, as I explain all three of these, that same thorn becomes something that was unforeseen. or something that was there, but you basically neglected to care about it because you wanted to make the decision anyways. And what a lot of times can happen is when you plant that seed, you're almost like option two, you're not doing as much work, but you've sought out a soil that you can grow your plant in, and you've sought out that it will grow, but you necessarily haven't checked all of the surrounding objectives that may come. And so if I was to give now a breakdown of each option, I'm going to start with the last option right here. The last option is planting your seed around weeds or bushes or even other plants for that sake. What this is supposed to symbolize is when we do something of that nature, you're planting a seed and your seed will grow, but what you'll find is your plant ends up getting choked out. It ends up not surviving because what you planted that seed in is in a negative surrounding. You planted that seed with people that maybe not be the best people for you in your life. You planted that seed based off of bad decisions in life that you knew that putting your seed there wasn't the rightful place. It wasn't the best choice of place, but you decided to place it anyways because you just wanted that plant to grow. And the problem with that is, as it does grow, just like the good soil in option one and option two, what you find is because you didn't put enough time invested into this option, or you didn't control the variables in your life that maybe are showing you that they're negative or they're hindrance, or let's say it's a bad spouse or it's bad friends or it's a bad crowd of people, you're going to find that that dream of that seed gets diminished because it gets choked out by other things. And the end conclusion to that is your plant ends up dying, which this metaphor isn't to symbolize you dying. It's to symbolize this dream that you have created. Each of these seeds and each of these options are a dream, or they're a new strength, or they're a new motive. And when you go through this, you've got this passion, you've got this desire to carry through. You've got this want again in life. You've got this feeling in life that you're not going to get held down anymore. You got this feeling in life that you finally have something worth fighting for. And that's what each of these seeds are to represent. It's to represent change, right? So the seed is change. And it's a healthy change. But it can only be healthy if you allow that seed to be planted in the right area. So as we go through option three, you've taken that seed of change and you've planted it in an area that was never meant for it to be planted. And the question's asked, well, why is it not meant to be planted? Well, it's because you didn't do enough research, or you didn't do enough self-help time to really make sure that you dotted your I's and crossed your T's. You know, did you do the proper work that it was going to take to see this plant or see this seed grow into the plant that you wanted? And I look at that as an opportunity in life. So that seed is change / opportunity. That seed is the new person that you want to be, because you're so tired of being the person that you currently are. You're so tired of being just in a negative mood. You're so tired of feeling like you're trapped. You're so tired of feeling like there's no motive to life, or you feel that you're just being hindered by a bunch of factors that just surround you. It's almost like you've got this, and I've talked about this in past videos, is you're stuck in this pattern. It's a revolving pattern that you just go from A to B to C, and it's just constantly revolving and nothing changes. And so the seed is a lot of times these new ideas that we have in life, that there is something more to life than what we're currently living. And so in option three, which is where we have the weeds, we find that as that time grows, in the early years, that seed is okay. And it may have a little bit of struggles because of the surrounding areas around it, right? Like it's not a perfect growth. You know, there's some struggles. There's some things that, cause delays, but that seed ends up growing into a plant. And what we find is this seed is the second longest living that turns into the plant. So it's the second longest living plant. And the first long living, just in case I forget this, the first longest living plant is option 1, where you plant your seed in good roots. The third longest living, which would be the shortest living plant, is the one that is for option 2, which is planting in rocky soils. And so going through this, the question's asked, well, why does the seed in option 3 not work out? And it doesn't work out because although it worked for a time, it ends up getting hindered by something that has already been in your life. It ends up being stopped by something that stops you short in your tracks. And so you never fully develop into what you were hoping for because you never got fully healthy to move on into that next path. Just give me 1 second. So that next path was to be your happiness, but you stopped short because the plan was never put into place. The pre-activities were never produced. The follow-through was never addressed. And those are key things here. And so what we want to do is we want, like I said, look at option 3 as you had the interest to want to change, and it worked for a while, but it ended up not coming to fruition. You ended up getting stopped in your tracks. And no one really knows what the time span of that stopped in your tracks is going to be. But basically, you never completed what you needed to complete before you planted that seed. And so option 2 is planting your seed in rocky soil. What I look at option 2 is worse than option 3, because where option 3, at least you were able to plant your seed and it grew, option 2 is the worst because it's almost like you're trying to attempt a new opportunity in your same surroundings / same setting. And this is the worst of the options because you never looked to change. You never wanted to change, but you just kept planting your seed in all these rocky territories. And what happens when you do that in life is you give yourself a 50% chance of success. And the horrible thing about that is it's because when you looked to plant that seed, you planted your seed in a area of struggle. And so what I look at this option 2 is I look at this as a person who wants to change but doesn't change their surroundings, doesn't change who surrounds them, doesn't change the maybe the idea of life that they have in their mind when they go out every single day. They stay focused on what they're currently doing and they don't change at all. And the problem and the outcome of this option 2 is that seed potentially never grows. And the reason why it never grows is because those rocks, just like metaphors in life, hold that seed down. And it doesn't allow that seed to grow because every time that seed is trying to reach the top, a new rock comes and alters that path. And it keeps suppressing that seed from growing into a plant. And those rocks are the things in life that are holding you back. And those rocks, whether they are people, whether they're objects, whether they are life cycles, whether they are patterns, they are things that are holding you down and are holding your seed down. And I asked the audience to figure out right now, if you were to plant a seed, What option do you feel like you have planted in? Have you done the prerequisites of nourishing your new journey? Have you sought out what you need to change in life? Have you written down things that you are happy about yourself lately and things that you're unhappy about, things that you want to change and things that you don't want to change, things that are impacting you in a negative way and things that are impacting you in a positive way? Have you given yourself long-term, short-term, medium-term goals? Have you given yourself new opportunities for learning? So what are you doing new in your life? Some people, they get caught up in this revolving pattern because they're not attempting to do something new. And rather than getting off topic, which I can do a lot of times, as is my whole goal here is to help people and give them a new light. A lot of times I can get off path just because I'm so passionately into trying to help people, because I see so many people out in this world that are just closed eyes, closed doors, and they're hurting inside. And they're hurting inside until they realize that there's more to life than what is seen to the naked eye. And there's more to this life that is there's so much beauty to this life. There's so much opportunity in this life. There's so many times that we can change, but we feel like we can't, and so we don't change. And going back to this option 2 with the rocks, you cannot have a healthy, happy life if you still have those negative weights suppressing on you. And those negative weights in this metaphor being those rocks. So that is the option 2, is asking yourself, if you feel so far, do you feel that you're an option 3 person, which is your seed grows into a plant, but you find that you didn't put enough investment and your plant ends up dying, which that plant is not you dying. That plant is your new goal. That plant is your new perspective on life that you want to have. That plant is the new motivation you want to have each day. So that's your option 3. Option 2, do you feel like you're falling in this category because maybe you're not like option 3, where you at least put some thoughts into it. You at least try to clear the pathway. You at least try to seek new opportunities, seek new avenues. And instead, you decided to try a new objective, a new pattern in life, a new outcome in life, but with too many surrounding negatives. Whether that's people, your job, the places that you go, the things that you're reading. What are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with good, or are you surrounding yourself with bad? And so in option 2, we've got the rocks, which those rocks, like I said, are the metaphor of negative hindrances that will hold you back in life, that you've got to start to cast out. And option 1 is what God wants for us. Option 1 is this beautiful, pure plan that is not going to still not have some struggles along the way, just like anything. Just because you plant a seed doesn't necessarily mean it's going to grow. You've got to put that work into it. And by asking this, if I was to give a full developed plan of this option 1, as you're trying to look to plant the seed in good soil, is if we start from the pre-care. So the first thing is you got to figure out what plant you want to do. And the seed is your new desire, right? The seed is what you are going to do next. So you've got to pick the plant. And that plant has got to be what your next motive in life is going to be. So it's starting something new. It's a new idea. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be small. It doesn't have to be whatever it can be. It's just attempting to do something indifferent from your current plan of life, your current movement of life. And so you got to figure out what your plant is. And this takes some time of thinking. This takes some time of centering your mind in a good, healthy place. And how you can get there is by doing certain healthy objectives here. So we've got, maybe that's exercising, maybe that's yoga, maybe that's taking some time for meditation, maybe that's taking time to read scripture or to follow your religion. Maybe that's taking time to meet with good people. The biggest advocates in life are the people that love you most And a lot of times they have wisdom that they have once in their life gone through some of the same feelings that you've gone through. So have focus groups, go out with people, go to church groups, go to friends that you feel are in the right direction. Go to the people that you feel you can trust and confide in, and talk to them about devising, what this new plan should be, what your plant should be. But the gist of that whole thing is you have prerequisites to do, right? So we talked about figuring out what your plant is, what this new idea is going to be. The second part of that, once you've figured out what your new plant, aka your new goal, your new motive, your new just something new in life that you're going to do to change your current outcome, to change your current pattern. The second thing you need to do is, how do you foster that plant's growth before you actually physically plant that seed? And so what I mean by that is asking yourself, just like a child, am I bringing this child into this life on a good foot forward? And if that answer is no, then what you got to do is you have to ask yourself, what changes do I need to make in my life to best advocate the growth of this plant? And that might be changing your normal practices. That might be changing your routine in the morning, as simple as something of, waking up a little bit earlier, or going to sleep a little bit earlier, or writing down, at the start of your day, hey, these are a couple things I want to accomplish today. Or tuning into one of the channels I like is the Moody Bible channel. It is, in the gist of it, the second part is you have to think of this. I think the best metaphor was what I used earlier. If you were to bring a child into this life, do you have your best foot forward? And if the answer is no, then what you got to start to do is you got to start to think about how you can get that best foot forth, what things you need to change, what things you need to keep consistent, and how to apply that. The third thing to that option one, so you've got the plant, you've decided what plant, you decided what you're going to do moving forward. Second is you've decided that you're going to make sure that your foundation is ready before you plant that seed. The third step is physically planting that seed. Now, when you plant that seed, this is your action item. This is when you've taken an idea of conception and now you have advocated that. You have physically made the notion or mentally made the notion that you are going to do this. So you have planted that seed now. And now what that seed needs is that continued support of growth. So as we went through that second part, you're trying to figure out, what things is best foot forward and how you're going to do those things. Now the third step is incorporating that second step options here. So it's taking what you have thought would be a good foundation and actually incorporating that, which means holding yourself accountable to these new steps that you have said that you're going to take in order to do so. And what you'll find in life is the more time you put into something, typically, the better outcome that you have. So those first two steps are very important, because if the first step of the option is picking your plant and you pick the wrong plant, it's okay. But if you find that you picked the wrong plant, what was wrong about that? What was your mind set on the wrong wants? This is a common thing that people do. Their new plant is a new job. But when you ask them, well, why did you want that new job? Well, because the salary was super high. Okay, well, if you're going to base, once again, off of salary, you may find happiness for a little bit, but more than likely what it's going to do is that's going to fall into an option 2 or option 3, where you either planted in bad roots because if your mind, just like the rocky soil, you got that plant because you know what, your mind's always been fixated on money and salary, and so you did the same thing over, you just went to a different job. Well, you're going to get the same outcome. Same thing, for the option 3 is You find out that you went for this job for the salary, but then you find out there's just as many problems with this job as your last job. Well, it's because you didn't set forth a good, honest desire in life, and that's why it ended up holding you back, because you found out that you were biased to the next objective that you did. Your biases were your mind to flood and to tell you that, oh, you know what, it's going to be better because the salary's better or the salary's higher. So, if I take this job, even though I may not enjoy it, the money will help me enjoy it because I'll be able to spend more money and I can buy more things. But what you're going to find in life is buying more things does not get you happiness. There's so many greater things to life than materials, that when you see that, you'll realize that. And that's the key of life, is realizing that worldly items will never give you the happiness, the long-term happiness that you so passionately are wanting, are hoping for. So that's something to think about. In life, that's one of the biggest tips I can say is, if you want something, make sure it's not based off of worldly items, because more times than none, you'll find that when you get that new item, it doesn't give you what you needed. And there's only certain things in life that can give you that. And that typically is people, that typically is God, and that typically is your self appreciation for who you are and being the best person you can be. And what I mean by that is, when you are a good person and you try to do good things, it may not always look like life is better, but you'll find that the beautiful thing about that is that's when our eternal life with our Creator comes in. And maybe the 80 years we live on this earth, which you've got to remember is the 80 years that you live on this earth, live it to the best that you can and be the best person you can. And be the best person you can, not only for yourself, but for others, because when you go to eternal life, you're going to have eternal just love, appreciation, happiness, humility, joy. You're going to have all of those words that God has described for us. And so I know I kind of got off task a little bit there. Give me 1 second. So going back to option 1, which is planting good soil, we've got our plant of choice. That's our next goal for life. We have taken the steps to make sure the soil that we are about to plant our seed in is ready. It's got nutrients. It's got everything that this plant needs to grow. The third step is we've planted that. So we finally have taken action on our new goal. We've moved a step forward in the right direction. And the fourth is maintaining it, because you can do all three first. But if you forget the fourth, that plant ends up dying. So what I mean by that is when you finally find success of that plant, and that plant is just flourishing, the flowers are beautiful, or the fruit or the vegetables that are coming off of that plant, just like in life, you've got to maintenance it. Because if you neglect it because you get subsided or sidetracked by something else, well, that plant starts to wither away. And so the key thing of looking at this is a new strategy in life, or a new hope for life. It takes work. It takes dedication. It takes sympathy for yourself when sympathy is needed. It takes direction from God. It takes direction from understanding right and wrong. And the outcomes of each of those seeds are uniquely different, because the inputs going into those seeds are uniquely different. Option 3, we find that the plant grows, but it ends up getting choked out by other lively factors. It ends up getting choked out by those negative hindrances in our life that we can't control, but we can surely navigate around. We look at option 2, that plant, if it has the opportunity to grow, it may not even break the soil, and it may get depleted before it can even sprout. And we've seen the reasons for that. And it's usually because our surroundings are not healthy for us to be able to plant that seed. It was never a soil that God wanted for us to plant that seed in. And then we've got the third outcome, which is the soil that God wants for us. It's actually the soil that he gives us, which is he's given us all the tools and all the equipment needed to make this beautiful plant. And if we utilize his knowledge and his wisdom, and we understand the new opportunity in life that we have, and we stay committed to that, we can grow a beautiful plant. We can take what is known as today, which is our struggles, and we can move past those struggles and create happiness. And we can create that joy that I think all of us strive for. That joy that just makes you feel complete, that just brings a smile on your face. It's like kind of that first spring day when winter's over. That's what we've got to search. So what I talk to my audience in today is, think about your next plant. Think about what you need to change in your life to start living a healthy, happy life. Think about when you figured out what that next motive in life is going to be, how you need to foster that, how you need to take care of that. And the third thing is once you finally take that action and you're living that new objective and you're feeling great, how do you continue to maintain it? What work needs to continually be done to make sure that you don't fall back into a past routine or pattern? And I think when you do this, you're going to find that this life was never meant for us to go through hardships. The world is a tough place, but just because the world is a tough place doesn't mean we have to become this tough, hardened heart of a person. So break those rocks, break that heart, let that heart come open, solve those wounds that have been there, and move into a new direction. Take your new opportunity of planting a new seed and pick which option you want to plant that seed in, and reflect on why past seeds have not worked, because that will allow you to figure out how to navigate what you've done in the past and then navigate yourself in a better direction for the future. And so I know this video was a little bit long today, but just wanted to speak about a lot of different things. And I think this seed metaphor has worked a lot of times in my life because of complacency that usually happens. And I think it's a key thing to just remember that, life is short. Life is like mist over a pond. You're going to see that pond with mist over it. You're going to get distracted. And once you look back, that mist is gone. And so, take the value of the opportunities that we have today and start advocating that for tomorrow. And so I wish you a world of success, and thank you for tuning in.